Malinda G. Hoagland came into this world on the celebratory date of July 4, 2012, in Chester County, Pennsylvania. She was the youngest sibling. Her three sisters, Emily, Abby, and Jamie, were a significant amount older and had all reached adulthood by 2024, the time of this narrative. Malinda was known for her striking blue eyes, light chestnut hair, and charming smile, which was frequently captured in photographs. Typically, her hair cascaded down to her shoulders, although by her 12th birthday, it had been transformed into an avant-garde, asymmetrical style. Emily, Malinda's sister, reminisced fondly on how Malinda, being born on the national holiday, always believed the firework displays marked her special day. Emily painted a picture of Malinda as an exuberantly joyful child who appreciated the wonders of her existence to the fullest. Jamie, another sister, echoed Emily's sentiments, but added that Malinda was a miracle child, due to initial complications at her birth. However, Malinda swiftly overcame her early struggles, blossoming into a robust and vivacious youngster. According to Jamie, Malinda was a delightfully radiant, positive, extroverted individual who had an insatiable zest for life. Jamie also reminisced on how Malinda was consistently proactive and relished engaging in fun activities. She also had an affinity for classic cinema, showing a level of appreciation seldom seen in her age group. Malinda equally demonstrated a studious side as she consistently achieved good grades at school and was an honor student. A snapshot of Malinda's more joyful moments highlights her affinity for the simple pleasures in life. Giving her sister's dogs a warm embrace, cheerfully enjoying a blue-sprinkled cupcake, a reflection of her favorite color, or sporting a playful grin while nursing a milkshake. Captured in her elementary school graduation photo, she looked regal in her oversized ceremonial red robe, the sleeves so long they concealed her small hands. The Bondens shared a touching video clip from Malinda's younger years that beautifully conveyed her vivacious spirit and love for life. In the video, she is seen engaged in a spirited round of Pie Face, a game involving a hand-cranked device that splatters whipped cream on the face of the losing player. True to her nature, she gingerly adjusts the device during her turn. Slightly taken aback when she gets a dollop of cream on her nose, she quickly relaxes into a giddy laugh. Like a true optimist, she uses the experience to create a moment of pleasure, delighting in the taste of whipped cream it left her with. For the sake of privacy, the name of Malinda's mother has been withheld from this narrative. Malinda's father, Malinda Hoagland, is known to be the paternal figure to all the sisters, though the elder ones were born to a different mother. The older siblings had been raised by Malinda and their mother until Jamie, the second youngest, reached the age of 5. Following this period, the couple ended their marriage. The children shared that their father was sometimes stern and believed in disciplinary spanking, but they insist he refrained from any form of aggression during their upbringing. They noted that he had a past with prescription medicine misuse, but that those challenges had seemingly been overcome. A period of 8 years post-separation gave birth to Malinda. Despite the older offspring mainly living with their mother, Renly had scheduled visits, so they frequently shared moments with him. Descriptions of Malinda's early life suggest a cheerful existence. As the youngest of his children, she was particularly dear to Randall. Jamie recounted her sister's ability to enchant their father and believed that their father would have undertaken any sacrifice for Malinda. Afterward, Renly and Malinda's mother decided to part ways. Initially, Malinda stayed with her mother, who was the primary guardian. However, the next few years brought significant transformations in Malinda's life. Firstly, as family members recalled, Malinda's mother was identified with multiple sclerosis, a condition where the body's defense mechanism attacks the shield of the mind and spinal cord nerves. Unfortunately, Malinda's mother's case was far from mild. Her health consistently deteriorated until she was severely incapacitated. Unable to cater to her needs, much less a child's, she was transferred to a care facility. Thankfully, Malinda still had her father and other affectionate family members to depend on. From 2018 to mid-2020, Malinda and her father were in Jamie's company. Malinda capitalizing on her precarious circumstances to excel in her academics. This period saw Renly starting a new companionship with Cindy Warren, which would lead to discomfort and distress for his offspring. Upon Renly's introduction to her, Cindy had possession of her child, a young boy here referred to as G, who was born approximately in 2016. Initially, she presented herself as a commendable mother, with the boy seemingly healthy, content, and well cared for. However, G was not her firstborn, and Cindy concealed several details about her, reflecting on her capabilities and appropriateness as a mother. Around the 90s, Cindy was involved with a man named McKinley Warren, and they became parents to a son in 1996. A year later, she bore another son with McKinley, but this wasn't his only child that year. After an instance of casual intimacy with another woman, the woman fell pregnant and delivered a girl named Jessica in 1997. Sad to say, the little girl's mother was in a fight against an addiction to a hard, hazardous drug, and the toddler was soon sent to share a house with her father McKinley and his other half, Cindy. In 1999, the 2-year-old began showing signs of distress, no longer communicating or attempting mobility, experiencing weight loss, and crying constantly. The county's Child Protective Services took swift action and moved her from their home, putting her into foster care. However, after a diagnosis of failure to thrive, the department sent her back to McKinley and Cindy in September of the same year. When December 1, 2000 rolled around, McKinley found himself rushing Jessica to the emergency room, her head awash with pain. He informed the healthcare professionals it was a car accident where she'd tumbled out, striking her head on the corner of the pathway. The subsequent day was marked by the young girl passing away due to the severity of her injuries. A few weeks later, McKinley and Cindy formalized their relationship in matrimony. Jessica's demise was officially considered a result of murder. However, it remains unresolved as to who is responsible. The authorities couldn't single out either McKinley or his wife Cindy as the perpetrator. In situations such as these, it's standard CPS procedure not to reveal specific circumstances because of privacy regulations. Nevertheless, investigative journalists uncovered details about the remaining children's living situation owing to the public register. There's ambivalence about whether the couple temporarily lost guardianship of the 2 remaining boys as the investigation unfolded, but they surely regained the care of the boys soon thereafter, and Cindy bore another child fathered by McKinley. During the first month of 2003, their children were placed in foster homes until April, when they were handed over to a close relative's custody. Either at the end of 2005 or the start of 2006, Cindy gave birth to another son who was swiftly put in foster care. Cindy identified McKinley as the father of the child, a claim he did not accept until paternity test results confirmed his fatherhood. Come February of 2006, and all the children were placed back under their custody. During her engagements with the agency, Cindy familiarized herself with their chief aim of reinstating disrupted families. She picked up on how to give them the responses they wished for, in the hopes her children would be returned to her. However, the actual situation at their home was at odds with her portrayal. An anonymous report was made to the agency in 2007, raising concerns about the bleak circumstances confronting Cindy's 3-year-old son. During school hours when the older children were away, the youngest one found himself in the crossfire of his parents' fury. Occasionally, the small boy was banished from the house and left alone all day with his siblings at school. There were times when he was barricaded in a bedroom for many days without permission to leave. It was reported that his older siblings had the permission to hit him. The little boy was covered with many marks, yet refrained from speaking out due to his father's profession as a police officer and involvement with Child Protective Services. His older siblings, however, confessed their deep fear of their father to investigators, admitting witnessing their father hit their youngest sibling. When requested to see the boy, his siblings led him to the door where he stood only in his underwear, revealing the full extent of his injuries. The officials were confronted with various injuries, including multiple marks, a burn, and a head injury resembling the one that young Jessica endured years ago. The inquiries provided sufficient evidence for law enforcement to finally apprehend Cindy and McKinley for their involvement in Jessica's death 7 years prior. Cindy resorted to accepting a plea agreement and had the obligation to testify against McKinley. He was subsequently indicted on the charges of physically assaulting his daughter, leading to her death, and sentenced to half a century in prison. He is currently enduring this sentence at SCI Phoenix in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. The homicide charges against Cindy were dismissed. However, she did admit to endangering her 3-year-old son and was sentenced to a 3 to 5 year prison term. She was released somewhere between 2010 and 2014. By 2016, she was expecting again, and when her child G was born, she became his primary caregiver. This was around the time when she encountered Renley. Around 2018, following the discovery that her father's bond with Cindy appeared seriously committed, Malinda's sister Emily felt the need to further investigate Cindy, so she searched Cindy's name on the internet. She was taken aback to discover Cindy's past involvements in child abuse. Being worried, she reported the findings to her father. She recounted, "I expressed to my dad, 'Dad, are you aware of this lady's past? Are you familiar with her actions?' Emily was flabbergasted to comprehend that her father was already privy to the facts. She expressed that her father responded, 'We're not discussing that currently.' Emily, despite being a grown individual and having a cordial bond with her father, found it unsettling that he rebuffed her concerns. When she insisted on voicing her worries, his reaction was, "You're my child, not my comrade. It's not your place to advise me." Cindy echoed her husband's sentiment. Both of them decided to exclude Emily from their lives as well as from Malinda's. Jamie devised a different approach to maintain a place in Malinda's life. She understood that voicing any negative sentiments about Cindy would not be accepted, so she withheld her thoughts and instead started searching for evidence that Cindy had grown into a better person. She saw that Cindy's son was brimming with cheer and happiness, while her father would go to any lengths for Malinda. Although she had reservations about Cindy, she believed in her father's capacity to step in and defend Malinda if any situation warranted. By keeping her comments to herself, Jamie was rewarded with limited interaction with Malinda, including the chance to mail her birthday and end-of-year gifts. They spoke about meeting face-to-face, but the family seemed to always have commitments whenever Jamie was available. Though she found it disappointing that their schedules could never sync, she did not find this exceedingly suspect. Her father was an avid outdoorsman and was frequently traveling. Likewise, Cindy did not care much for any of the grown-up daughters, which appeared to be a good enough reason for her to steer clear of them. Even though she was not excessively active on social media, Cindy would occasionally make her posts public, most of which were self-portraits. On June 17, 2020, she marked her birthday online by organizing a fundraising campaign for the group No Kid Hungry, ostensibly displaying to the public her concern for the welfare of children. In the same year, Renley was given full-time guardianship of Malinda. The guardianship agreement contained this specification: "The minor child shall not be left in the care of Cindy Warren, father's fiancée, for any period of time exceeding 1 hour unless explicitly agreed upon by mother and father through written consent." Even though the documents referred to Cindy as Randall's fiancée, she preserved her marital status with her initial husband. Given Cindy's background, this appeared to be a logical clause, and it might have provided safety for Malinda if Renley had adhered to it. Yet, Renley seemed to be guided by his emotions. His marriage with Cindy became increasingly intimate. In September 2021, he shared an image on the internet which said, "Find someone who is proud to have you, scared to lose you, fights for you, appreciates you, respects you, cares for you, and loves you unconditionally." Above the image, his caption said, "Done," followed by heart emojis. The following month, November 2021, 10-year-old Malinda made her final trip to the doctor's office. A healthy weight for her age ranged between 54 and 106 lbs. Thus Malinda, weighing 77 lbs, was right on target with her age group. In that similar month, messages between Cindy and Renley initially referenced an attack which caused harm to Malinda. Fast forward to the next year, 2022, Cindy and Renley relocated to a property on Reed Road in a remote section of Chester County. This new home was 2 hours away from Malinda's aunts and other family members. Regardless of the court's custody ruling forbidding Cindy from housing and looking after Malinda, both she and her son decided to move into the same place with Renly and Malinda. It was around this period that Renly took Malinda on a visit to see her mom for the final time, around the spring season of 2022. Malinka began to take classes at North Brandywine Middle School during the summer vacation. There is strong evidence that Renly and Cindy began to discipline Malinda with painful stress positions sustained for prolonged periods. Additionally, they began limiting her food and water intake as a punishment. Meanwhile, Rundle was maintaining the semblance of familial bliss online. Around holiday season, he uploaded a photo displaying the family's holiday ornament which portrayed 4 deer, each labeled with one of their names: Renly, Cindy, Linda, and G. The base of the ornament bore the inscription, 2022 4th holiday season together. However, the ornament lacked any representation for Rendell's older daughters, and there was no acknowledgement of the 4 children Cindy had lost custody of in previous years. On December 24th, Reynolds posted a photo of Malinda and G creating sugar cookies to bake. In that same month, they also created a 30-minute video in which they compelled Malinda to lift books over her head while they shouted at her and struck her. Over the next months, they escalated their physical and psychological abuse, intimidating her with more severe punishment for minor missteps and isolating her from anyone who may provide assistance. In January of 2023, Malinda was still attending school physically. Whenever she had bruises or other markings, the husband and wife would mask them with cosmetics. However, during the months of February and March, she missed nearly a month of school due to a severe carpet burn on her face that couldn't be covered with cosmetics. School offered her a reprieve, an escape from her dad and Cindy. It was a place where she felt valued. It would have been heartbreaking for Malinda to be removed from this safe haven for that duration. After her facial wound healed, they allowed her to return to school. Unfortunately, she had to take another elongated leave following a beating that left her with more large bruises that couldn't be hidden. Standing against the backdrop of Malinda's emotional torment, Renly's May 6th social media update displayed a snapshot of a dozen roses filling a jar on their kitchen countertop, labeled, "Just because flowers." Subsequently that same month, Malinda, along with the entire family, went with Renly to a piping hot chili preparation challenge situated a couple of hours away. Upon discovering he'll be contesting, Jamie made plans to also be present. She felt let down upon not spotting Malinda at the challenge on the day and requested to visit the accommodation they lodged in later during the evening. Relating the encounter, she articulated, "Upon my arrival, it was a drizzling day. The weather was chilly outside. As I entered their suite, it was roughly 60 degrees in there. Undoubtedly, it was excessively chilly in there. She was beneath a voluminous, cozy blanket. She never actually rose up, yet for my part, it never raised suspicion. She's a young child. She's freezing, so naturally she would prefer to remain in bed. There is no obligation for her to arise for my sake." Revisiting the matter presently, with the gift of hindsight, of course, makes me realize that we were all by ourselves. I inquired about how she was faring, about her life with Cindy. She never hinted at anything alarming. She never indicated anything of note. She went on babbling about her affection for school, about moving on to the next level, about her love for her best-liked films. On the return of Renly and Cindy to the suite, they announced it was bedtime and asked Jamie to go. Malinda never whispered a word to Jamie about the ordeal confronting her. This time around, officers were of the belief Malinda had been brainwashed to view the mistreatment she was encountering as an intractable part of her existence. The thought of disclosing her plight terrified her because she feared it would only escalate. On July 3, 2023, Renly shared a pair of Malinda's snapshots on the internet. The first portrayed her as a toddler, perched on a diminutive bed, beaming up at the camera. The following depiction seemed to be recent or approximate. She was donned in a school uniform from G's primary school and had a coy smile. Her eyes were gloomy, and she seemed to be wearing cosmetics. Her hair seemed sparse compared to usual and was shorn quite short on one side. Over the photographs, Renly typed out, "Happy 12th birthday, Malinda. Praying for countless more milestones like this in the future. We adore you. While his wishes might hint at many more life mileposts, he was doing little to help her make it past the upcoming one. The same month, the twosome placed a blink security mechanism in their residence's different rooms. Their numerous cameras provided a thorough record of her day-to-day activities, bolstering their list of infractions to justify their discipline. On the 4th day of August, Renly shared on social media that he and Cindy had traveled to New Jersey for a brief respite. Among the photos he shared were several of Cindy and one featuring both of them, conspicuously with the absence of Malinda and G. His caption, "Delighting in some quality time with the youngsters at Seaside Heights," suggested an enjoyable experience, even though he chose not to include any of their pictures. Upon their return to the New Jersey shoreline on October 8th, he omitted any reference to the children. His words, "impromptu excursion, maximizing our life's joy," adorned a series of images where he and Cindy posed with puckered lips, suggesting affection. At this point, Malinda had been absent from school for 35 days, with 10 days approved, leaving 25 days not authorized, a number beyond the acceptable limit. The district's educational administration submitted 2 reports to the Child Protective Services, though the nature of these reports remains unknown as the agency refrained from disclosing any specifics. Despite uncertainty around whether a social worker had the opportunity to speak with Cindy and Malinda, it was certain they spoke with Renly. However, even less clear was why the case was closed without conducting any home visits after these reports were filed.